Make a list of everything that can go wrong, and then make a longer list. Right?
David Bach is a New York Times bestselling author that you probably recognize from more than 100 appearances as a financial expert on NBC's Today Show. Before becoming a financial author and keynote speaker, he was a Morgan Stanley financial planner for almost a decade. This expertise created the foundation on which he built the Finish Rich franchise, an empire that has 9 New York Times bestselling titles, live seminars, online courses, and more. He is one of the only authors in history to have 4 books simultaneously on the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Business Week, and USA Today bestseller lists. He is also the co-founder of AE Wealth Management, one of America's fastest-growing RIAs with over $3.7 billion in total platform assets as of June 1st, 2018. If you want to transition from working within your industry with clients and customers to writing and teaching about your industry expertise on a larger scale, you will love this interview with David Bach.
I'm Kelsey Humphreys here with David Bach, who I'm sure you recognize. I'm sure you've recognized this book, The Automatic Millionaire. He's written 9 New York Times bestselling books, you guys, all about finance. You've been on the Today Show like 1,000 times. I think literally. I think it's almost that much. So I'm sure people recognize your face if they don't already know all of your amazing work. Of course, I know you have some financial stuff to talk to us about today. We're actually at FinCon in Dallas, which is what you're going to be a keynote speaker. But I want to talk about your story. I want to go all the way back. Are you ready?
All the way back.
So before you go out on your own with the books, and now you have your whole Finish Rich empire, you were at Morgan Stanley, right?
Exactly.
And you were there for like 8 to 10 years?
Yeah, 9 years.
9 years. Man, look at me. So
She did that by memory, by the way. You notice there's no cards in front of her.
it's true. I want to know your advice for people in working their way up in the corporate world, because even though it's an entrepreneurial show, there's a lot of people who think, you know what, I really need to work my way up, maybe grow their savings and stuff before they go out on their own. So what's your advice in that world where you were successful already?
So advice about working with the corporate world, my experience with Morgan Stanley is a little bit different. I was an entrepreneur at Morgan Stanley, right? Like I was a financial advisor, so I had to build my own business inside a system at Morgan Stanley.
True.
So I spent 9 years basically being an entrepreneur inside a corporate system.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, it's funny, we're here in Dallas right now taping this, and my agent's from Dallas. And my agent would say to me, I got my book deal for Smart Women Finish Rich, and then Smart Couples Finish Rich. She would say to me over and over again, don't quit your day job. Mm-hmm. And I had 2 books on the bestseller list, and I would call her up and she'd say, don't quit your day job. Mm-hmm. And the message that my agent, who represented some of the biggest talent in the world, was sharing with me at the time was, you have a huge advantage right now. You actually have a going career, mm-hmm. which I did. Mm-hmm. I was making a good income, and she's like, build this other business on the side while you've got an existing business. I think that's actually really important advice for a lot of people, because a lot of people think, I've got to quit what I'm doing and go be an entrepreneur. I started Finish Rich Media off my kitchen table with $1,000. Now, I was at Morgan Stanley working. Finish Rich Media got started between the hours of 4:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. Literally, I wrote Smart Women Finish Rich before I went to the office. And then I wrote that book after I came home. Mm-hmm. So I started that business on my kitchen table. I started it with nothing. And I did not leave Morgan Stanley until I had $1 million worth of income coming in to Finish Rich Media. Mm. So I was, because I'm a money guy, I was conservative.
Yeah.
I also loved what I was doing at Morgan Stanley. But what happened for me, and I'm sure this happens for a lot of people who might be watching, I loved what I was doing at Morgan Stanley. I loved being a financial advisor. But then I saw a bigger purpose. Mm-hmm. And my bigger purpose was I wanted, at the time, to go out and teach 1 million women to be smarter with money. And that's what led to Smart Women Finish Rich and my seminars and my first PBS show, was this purpose to go help more people. Mm-hmm. So that was a long answer.
I love it, though, because now I get to unpack all of that. You mentioned an agent. How'd you get an agent?
Well, okay, let's go back to the purpose for a second. So yeah. I was very clear on my purpose, which was I wanted to reach 1 million women. I was working with women clients at Morgan Stanley. I'd seen a lot of women be hurt through widowhood, through divorce, And I wanted to do something for the women clients that I had and their friends. I mean, that's literally how it started. It started in Lafayette, California, where I had this little idea. I teach a class for our women clients. And my vision just kept growing. That first class went from 225 women wanting to come to me sitting down in a journal and writing out, I want to reach 1 million women. So as I worked on that bigger purpose, that's where the ideas started coming from. I worked backwards. You know, how would I touch 1 million people's lives? How would I touch 1 million women? Well, I'd have to write a book. How would I write a book? You know, and like anybody, right? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And, you know, you had a friend of ours, Tony Robbins, was here. I had gone to a Tony Robbins seminar in the early 90s. I looked at what Tony was doing, and I happened to be at one of his events where Tony was on stage, and John Gray was on stage, and Peter Lynch was there. I mean, you know, all these legends, right? And I was like, oh my, I can do what these guys are doing in personal finance. What Tony's doing in motivation, what Steve Covey's doing in time management, what John Gray's doing in relationships, I can go do that in personal finance. That's my passion. So then I started modeling what did these people do. And you know, when you go like, how did I get the agent? I was very systematic about it. I was like, who represents all the best brands?
Awesome. Okay.
You know, I went to the bookstore, pulled the books out, looked in the acknowledgement section, created an Excel spreadsheet, who came up the most, then targeted the top 10 agents based on the type of author I knew I wanted to be. And the number one agent is who I went after.
Wow, that is so great. And it's even easier now with the internet. You don't have to go to Barnes & Noble. You can just look it up. There's all kinds of, I can tell you, if you want to really get stalkerish, I can tell you how to do it. Okay, so that's awesome. So what then, you know, when did you said you had $1 million. Is that how, did you set, like, here's how I'll know when I can quit quit Morgan Stanley and focus full time?
You know, let me just say something. Leaving Morgan Stanley and making the leap to go be a solo, you know, what was originally a solo entrepreneurship was the scariest decision of my life. Because I was walking away from a business I had spent 9 years building.
Yeah.
I knew I would have financial security for life in that business. And I didn't know that this would work. Right. So, and I moved. I moved from California to New York City because that was where all the media was. This was before you could just put up cameras and be online. I had to be in New York City so I could go on all those TV shows. I was told basically once you're in New York, it's easier to be on these shows. I didn't know anybody in New York. I mean, my wife and I went there, you know, looking back on it, it was like a wing and a prayer kind of thing. But I knew that I had enough money to get me through a couple years, and I had clients with income coming in. So we had licensed the seminars, Smart Women Finish Rich and Smart Couples Finish Rich, and we had people teaching them all over the country. So I had a level of success where I'm like, okay, this is working. I didn't know it would keep working, right? Like any entrepreneur. And I didn't know, you know, my dreams were big, but I mean, I literally had management at Morgan Stanley sit me down and say, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you've got an amazing thing here. And, you know, it probably might not work. And by the way, when I got to New York, I had those moments that any entrepreneur has, which is like, oh my God, what did I do? But then it started working.
So what's your advice for that person who's considering pulling the trigger? They're about to just eject and go full-time into either their passion project or leave their full-time job and go solo.
Well, so like there's so much there I can unpack, right? I think the first thing is your why, right? A friend of mine, Simon Sinek, talks about your why. I've been talking about your why for 25 years. My books I teach purpose-focused financial planning, which has always been based on show me what your values are, show me what your dreams are, and let's build your financial plan around that. When someone says to me, I want to start a business, the question I ask is why? Tell me why, tell me what you're leaving, and tell me what you're going forward to, right? Like
towards,
you're leaving something and you're moving forward to something else. What is it? What, you know, and then make a list of everything that can go wrong, and then make a longer list, right? Like so, like
that's great.
Tell me the 20 things that could possibly go wrong here, so that you can come up with a plan on how you're going to deal with that. Because I promise you, everything that you think's going to go wrong, there could be that and more. So as long as you've got a plan for it, and you're clear on your overarching why, and you're driven and you're pulled by that, I think you can be unstoppable. With that all being said, I'm a huge believer in financial security. So like one of the ways to get through the difficult times is to have a bunch of cash, right? Like so like leaving a job with 2 weeks of cash to cover your expenses for 2 weeks is not a good idea.
Right.
If you say to me, David, I've got a year's worth of expenses set aside, I have no idea if this business is going to work, but I believe so strongly in it that I know I can at least have a year to go for it, and I can still go back and get a job if it doesn't work. That's better than if you said to me, I've got 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And for some people, it's somewhere in between. But I do think it's getting really realistic about your expenses, having some money set aside. And I will say this too. If you're going to make that leap, get the expenses cut before the leap. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you haven't gone out and raised money for your business and you have to live off your own cash flow, then get your expenses down before you go do it.
Great point. So one thing I think that's so genius and amazing and wonderful about what you have built is, finish rich. You start with women, then you go to couples. Now you have how many total in the series?
Well, there's 12 books total in the Finish Rich series.
Yeah, that's genius. So I want to know, did that just come to you, or did you just hear new audiences talk about it and you're like, okay, I'll write a book about that?
Okay, so the truth is that I actually pitched Smart Women Finish Rich as a franchise and a brand. When I got on a plane and flew to Dallas to see my agent, I laid out on a mind map, this is the Finish Rich brand. I showed her other brands and I said, just like John Gray did all of this, just like Steve Covey did all of this, just like the Chicken Soup series did all of this, I'm going to do all of this.
I love it.
And she said, okay, I get it. We're going to go sell this. So when I sold Smart Women Finish Rich, I sold a brand. I said, I'm going to build the leading brand in personal finance. Now, it was an idea, right? Like you're making it up but in my mind, it was real. If I go back to that original list of books I had, a lot of them didn't get done. Smart Couples was not on the list. Smart Couples came from the readers. I wrote Smart Women Finish Rich, and women started emailing me and saying, this is amazing. How do I get my husband to do it?
Yeah.
This is amazing. How do I get my partner to do it? This is amazing. My husband won't do it. We're fighting. Mm-hmm. And that led to the second book. And then so much of it was just listening to my readers. And sometimes my readers telling me, I need something different than what you gave me. That's what led to the Automatic Millionaire. People are like, these books are great. They're way too comprehensive. I just need to know the one thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, like people would go, that was a great speech. This is a great book. Can you just tell me the one thing? I just want to know, come over here and just tell me the one thing. And that's what led to the Automatic Millionaire, because I just kept saying that over and over again. So a lot of the books happen that way. Start late, finish rich. This is do we have time for a story? She's like, oh my God,
yes,
is he going to ever stop talking?
No, we love stories.
So Automatic Millionaire comes out. I'm doing a book signing. I'm in New York City. At the end of the book signing, the woman raises her hand. She's like, David, I love you. She's like, I read Smart Women Finish Rich. I loved it. I read Smart Couples Finish Rich. I loved it. I'm going to get the Automatic Millionaire today. I'm sure I'm going to love it. But you have not written the book that I need. And I go, well, I get all my book ideas from my readers. What is it? She goes, I need Start Late, Finish Rich. The entire room just busted up laughing. Well, I'm like, okay, thanks. I'm signing books. Every single person in the book signing was like, I need that book too. Mm-hmm. My publisher is sitting next to me at the book signing, and the head of Random House, who's the head marketing person, and at the end we go out for drinks, and he's like, that's the next book. Yeah. And literally, I come back into the publisher 2 days later, and they have the book cover ready for me. They're like, we want to the book had just, Automatic Millionaire had just hit number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. I came in, they had champagne, they had strawberries, and then they unveiled the book cover.
And now get back to work.
And then they're like, so now you just need to go write it.
Yeah. So do you have a writing process? Can you give some tips for people who may have this prolific vision like you did on how to actually write them all?
Oh, totally. Yeah, you have to do this thing called writing. I'd be like,
I wanted a shortcut.
I want to be a writer. Well, you know what you have to do? You have to write. So literally, when I have books to write, which I pretty much had for over a decade straight, there's a due date, thank God. I mean, because if I didn't have due dates are what get me to get things done. Mm-hmm. I sit down and I have a goal every morning. I've got to get 1,000 to 1,500 words done. So it's like I get up early. I write most of my books in libraries. So almost every single book has been written in one library or another, all over the country. Like Del Mar, California is where Debt Free for Life was written, and Fight for Your Money. And I have two books that were written in the Sag Harbor Public Library, and I have a book written in the East Hampton Library. Start Late, Finish Rich was written in the New York Public Library, one of the most gorgeous libraries ever. And I get into the library. Sometimes libraries don't open until 10, which screw things up. But I will go to a coffee shop, but I try to start writing very early in the day. And I write until I've got 1,000 to 1,500 words done. And I know myself, I also can't write past usually 2 or 3 o'clock. Now, there are days where I can get in there and I can be writing from 6 a.m. till 2 and not eat. But I am there's no way I'm writing anything at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I know myself, but I look at it like, you've got 60 to 80,000 words to get done. And you need to do it over 90 days. And let's go.
Yeah, so great. So what's your advice on once things start exploding? I mean, scaling, now you have this whole operation, you have teams, you're doing seminars everywhere. Like you said, you licensed it to other people to train. So what's your advice once you grow way beyond yourself and your small team, or maybe hiring, or, starting your team, at the beginning?
Well, so it's funny because it's become so in vogue as virtual assistants and virtual freelance work.
Right.
I started with a virtual assistant. Now, it happens to be my first virtual assistant was my assistant from Morgan Stanley, who when I left, when I was going to New York and said I'm leaving, she's like, well, you're not leaving without me. I'm like, Kathy, you're not moving to New York. She's like, I'll work over the phone with you. So I got my first virtual assistant by accident. She said, I'll keep working with you, and she worked with me for 2 years. Then, as I started hiring on the East Coast, my first assistant was, again, a virtual assistant. So I was very comfortable to hiring people virtually first. Then as it grew, I did the things that people do. I got office space. I got full-time staff. And then when I had that full-time staff grow and grow and grow, today most of my staff is virtual, or I have, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm a co-founder of a registered investment advisory firm. That firm is based out of Topeka, Kansas. We have 50 employees in Topeka, but my office in New York, I've got my own office with a couple virtual assistants, or one assistant physically in the office. So I've got people all over the country, but I don't have to have a big operation physically in my office. And I can work from anywhere, which is the way the world is today.
Yeah. So if you were going to start over and do this from scratch today, you have this vision, you want to help women, and you see way beyond just women, what would you do differently than what you did the first time around?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think the world's changed, right? So and I haven't done, for instance, exactly what you're doing right now. I haven't been doing a lot of things online that I'm personally controlling. Like you saw me, I think, on Marie Forleo. I've watched her grow from nothing. So I think today, if I were going to do it, I would be doing that model. We're just about to start rolling out online courses that we sell directly. I have an enormous database. Go to finishrich.com, register on our website. You can get our newsletters and be invited to classes. But today it's about being online. I mean, I taught a class this year on Create It Live, and we've had 20,000 people take that class.
Wow. That's
Start Late, Finish Rich. So yeah, I did a book signing in January when the Automatic Millionaire came back out. Here I am, shameless plug. We did a virtual book signing. We had thousands of people on the virtual book signing. I sold more books on that virtual book signing than I had ever sold in a live bookstore. I used to have to fly all over the country. I stayed in every single Motel 6 you could. Back in the day when this was me grinding it out, I was staying in the Motel 6s all over America and doing every college radio show. Let me just say something for a second. It always looks glamorous by the time you see the person, on the Today Show or wherever you see them with their best-selling book, or you see them on stage in front of thousands of people. It took a lot of not glamorous time.
Yeah.
I had events, I had a book signing and one person came and she didn't buy a book. I had events with 10 people in the room.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot, but as long I honestly have loved it. Whether it was 10 people or it's 10,000 people, I've loved it. But I think today what's changed, social media, being online, the ability to have direct relationship with everyone. You don't have to have a publisher today. That's a completely different world.
Yeah.
So, today you can go I got an idea. You can go try it. And then you can see if anybody wants to buy it.
Yeah, so great. Okay, before we get to the last few questions, I want to go back because I listened to some of your other interviews, and you're right. You were talking about the why before that was the saying, and I loved hearing you talk about it. So could you just dive into that on like how to really, whether it's the ladder or the circle or whatever, to figure out your values?
Yeah. So she really read my books. I love this because what she said was the value in the circle, and the ladder was in Smart Women Finish Rich. It was how to look at your hierarchy of values, and you would work your way up this ladder. And I would do this for clients. I learned this from a friend of mine named Bill Bach, who created values-based financial planning. And then I changed it to a circle because what happened, readers would get stuck on their values. Like, well, I don't know what my highest value is. And they became obsessed with determining their highest value. I realized it doesn't really matter what your highest value is. In fact, sometimes if you focus so much on your highest value, your life can actually become out of whack because you can put all your energy to just that one value. So I started teaching, really very simply, come up with your 5 core values, and then look at your life and go, are you spending money in a way that matches up with your values, or are you spending money in a way that actually is in conflict with your values? Then same thing with your goals. So I did this with clients. So I wasn't just like writing about it. I was living it with my clients, because what I realized was when a client is clear on what their values are, it becomes much easier for them to make financial decisions. Like a big question for people is, when should I retire? I mean, that's probably like that's the baby boomer question. Do I retire at 62? Do I retire at 65? Do I retire at 70? How much money do I need? Financial services traditionally is all about the numbers. It's about, I'll plug in your numbers and then I'll tell you the answer, which isn't really correct. So what I started doing was going, look, we can look at the numbers. Let's talk about your life. If you just told me that the way in which you make the biggest difference is through your job, and that you are still of service at your company or your business, and you love that, and that's your highest value, then forget what the numbers say. You're not meant to retire.
Yeah.
If you say to me, what my highest value is? It's family, and I haven't been able to spend time with my family in the last 10 years, and I'm getting older, and my wife's got, we think we've got 10 good years to travel, and I want to make sure as a husband, I do everything I can to fulfill the promises I made to my wife and my kids and my grandchildren. I want to go live this. I want to live a different life.
Yeah.
Then what's on paper financially may not be as important. So that's where clarity around your values becomes life-changing.
Yeah, I love it. So great. So you guys, if you haven't read his books, you need to read his books. Okay, so first, before we get to the financial advice, what's just your number one piece of advice for a beginner entrepreneur out there?
How am I going to give you number? Okay.
I know it's a tough question.
Here's what I would say, because I just literally replied to somebody on Facebook
Really?
20 minutes ago on this. Okay. When you're self-employed, you have to open up a SEP IRA. You have to have a self-employed retirement account, and it takes like 5 minutes today to go online to Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab, any major brokerage firm, open up a self-employed retirement account. And the moment you start making money, you start funneling money into a SEP IRA. But I just jumped ahead. Let me just tell you what I did for my wife. Okay, when my wife started her own business, the first day, I'm like, we're going to do 3 things for you on your first day.
I love it.
1, we're going to go get you an LLC set up.
Okay.
So literally, she's like, what's an LLC? How are we setting it up? I go on the computer, I'm like, click, click, click.
Yep, print it out. Yep.
We got her set up with an LLC. So the second thing we're going to do is we're going to get you a bookkeeper. She's like, a bookkeeper? You got me doing an LLC and a bookkeeper. I haven't made any money yet. Happened to be she was going into real estate, right? So really important. She's a real estate agent. She's self-employed. So I'm like, you need to treat your business like a business. This is exactly what I did. My dad sat me down with an attorney who got me at the time to set up an S corporation. Cost me like $1,000 back then to do that. I'm like, why am I doing all this? He's like, because you got to treat your business like it's a business before it's business. So, you go back to my wife, we set up an LLC, got her a bookkeeper, happened to be mine, virtual bookkeeper. I'm like, look, the moment money comes in, she's going to start doing your bookkeeping for you. And the second thing is we're going to open up a SEP IRA account.
Yep.
And so you're going to be putting money aside for taxes and putting money away in a retirement account. You're going to have your books all organized. Oh, and we're going to get you a business credit card because I don't want you spending money for your business on the personal credit card. She's like, how am I going to get a business credit card? I go, watch, honey. This is how easy it's going to be. Click, click, click. instant approval.
Yep.
So like we literally did all that in probably 2 hours. I don't even know if it took 2 hours.
Yep.
But, you know, she wanted to go to work. She went and got a real estate license. She goes into the office. She's like, do you know most of these people in my office don't even have any of these things? I'm like, I know.
Yeah. So good. Okay, so what is the biggest financial mistake you see entrepreneurs making?
Well, everything I just covered is where everybody
The big-
gets screwed up.
big
So,
part.
you know, what is the number one mistake that solo entrepreneurs make? They don't set aside any money for taxes or
Yeah,
enough
that's
money
true.
for taxes. So they're constantly behind on the 8 ball when it comes
Yep.
to taxes, which becomes a disaster. What happens is money's coming in and they're spending money like it's all theirs. Like I sat down with my wife, I'm like, when a dollar comes in, you need to think 50% of it's gone.
Yep.
It's gone for taxes, it's gone for retirement account. You only have 50-cent dollars to work off. So that's number one. They screw up on taxes.
My first year, real bad. It was real bad.
And it can be brutal because you can end up being a couple years behind and then you can't catch up. And it's a horrible feeling for an entrepreneur where they know the money's coming in, it's not even really their money, but they don't realize, a lot of times they don't realize it. Second thing is they don't fund retirement accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do, this is where accountants, I think, set entrepreneurs in the wrong direction. When you're an entrepreneur, you can legally write off a lot of things. Like everything that's being done right now that's in this room, all this equipment, it's all a write-off. So there's a camera and a camera and a camera and lights, and she flew here and she bought this mug and I gave her this book, so she'd have to buy that. But like everything here, you can write it off.
Yes.
Like when you take me for a drink out after this, it's a write-off. She's not really taking me for a drink. Entrepreneurs get in this habit because the accountant said, well, look, run everything through your business. At the end of the year, you'll have less profits, or in many cases, no profits, and you won't owe any tax. And what the CPA or the accountant does at the end of the year is go, you don't owe any taxes because we ran everything through your business.
Right.
And what that means is you worked all year long and you're still broke.
Yeah, you made nothing.
And this is what entrepreneurs do, especially solo entrepreneurs do year after year.
That's not a win. That's not good.
And the business keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I know lots of people who have multi-million-dollar businesses that at the end of the year, they didn't make any profit. Now they're proud of that. They got a really nice car and they got a great lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem becomes when the recessions hit and everything goes down, there's no money. And and also, by the way, if you have a business where you aren't running profit through it, you can't sell that business. Businesses typically, like 99% of the time, businesses are bought and sold based off multiples of earnings. It's called EBITDA. And if you don't have a business with cash flow where I can see the profit, even if you're taking a big salary out, because you're taking a big salary out and you leave, that's fine, because I can see there's real money there. But if you have a business where there's consistently no profit, that is basically a business that's not saleable, almost always. And so one of the entrepreneur fantasies is I'm going to build a business and that's going to someday be how I retire. And another fact is that most businesses aren't saleable. Mm-hmm. So there's a small percentage of entrepreneurs that can build a business that can be sold. And we read about them all the time.
Yeah.
So, in this day of all the billion-dollar unicorns, it seems like everybody's building a business and selling it and making hundreds of millions of dollars. But, 95% of businesses make less than $1 million a year. And they're not saleable. Mm-hmm. So it's really important. And by the way, Gary, Gary, a lot of people follow Gary Vee, right?
Oh, yeah.
I met Gary Vee when he was 5 people sleeping in a room. And, Gary's done amazing things. And I watched a video that Gary did where he talked about how, we're all talking about numbers too big. Like, as I say, $1 million. Like, you don't have to have $1 million a year business.
Right.
You could have a $100,000 a year business. As long as you keep some money and you're funding a retirement account and you're able to live off a great lifestyle, great. The bummer is if you do that for 10 years and you've saved nothing, and then you're tired, you want to do something else and you have nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay, I always say, you have to pay yourself first. Right. And guys, when you're an entrepreneur, guys and gals, you need to be paying yourself first. It needs to be a cornerstone of why you're doing what you do. So that you can pay yourself first, you can put yourself first. And you need to think of your family. Okay, and so let me just go say something for entrepreneurs who have families. You have a family, you have kids, and you're an entrepreneur. Actually, even if you're not an entrepreneur, you need to be going out and getting yourself a term insurance policy. Okay, like it's the cheapest, most romantic thing you can do is go buy $1 million or $2 million or $3 million of term insurance. I'm not talking about buying whole life. I'm not talking about anything that's gonna have a huge commission in it. I'm talking about go online and buy a term insurance policy to protect your family. Because people do drop dead all the time. It's not, she laughed, but it's like,
It's like
but
a cheery
people,
way to end.
you know,
cheery note to end on.
but we're trying to give things that can
It's
be
true,
of value.
it's
And
real,
like,
yeah.
you know, I just talked to somebody the other day whose friend dropped dead at 41 and didn't have enough insurance. And so, you know, you're watching this and you want to be a great entrepreneur, be a responsible entrepreneur. Be a responsible entrepreneur. Like when you get done watching this video, go, you know what? He's right. I need to go get $1 million worth of term insurance for my family. I need a will. You know, so many people, you're watching this, you're in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. You're married. You have kids. You have no insurance and no will. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
So, I care so much about this stuff, and I want to like be entertaining for people, but I want to entertain you to action.
Yeah.
So I hope like with doing this today, we had some fun, but I hope you go take some of these ideas and go act on them.
I love it. And the first action can be, well, either go do what he said or get his books, because then he'll lay it out for you on how to do it all. All right, I love it so much. We'll be right back after this with Fast Facts. All right, guys, I wanted to ask you if you're enjoying this interview, if you would show some love. You could give it a thumbs up. You can take a screen grab and give me a shout out on Instagram. You can share it with a friend who you know will love it. The Kelsey Show is brought to you totally free for 2 reasons. One, I work my face off as a motivational entertainer. I'm an international keynote speaker. You can actually book me to speak at your event, your conference, your meetup, your book club, your kid's baptism. I'm here for it. Just go to kelseyhumphreys.com. There's a link there on the homepage. And 2, viewers like you who support me by buying my books and limited edition swag and all that kind of stuff that can be found on the shop page. Again, just go to kelseyhumphreys.com and you'll find it there. Let's get to the goods on how we take insights from such a super successful person and apply it to our, everyday lives. So here are my top few keys to success for the rest of us
From my interview with David Bach. Before I get to the entrepreneurial tips, I want to say the number one tip that we should take away from him is that you've got to live your life according to your values. I love his circle exercise with your 5 core values. Look at your life, he says, and ask yourself, are you spending your time, your money, your resources in a way that truly matches up with your core values? If you are looking to become an entrepreneur like he did, take his advice and stay in your day job as long as you can. A lot of my more conservative guests who are massively successful give this advice. Build up a nest egg for yourself so that you are not as strapped once you're finally out on your own. Number 3, find a why beyond yourself. Many entrepreneurs love the idea of becoming an expert, doing keynote speeches, getting a book deal, having hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. But again, the people that I've had on my show are mission focused. They have a vision beyond themselves, and we need that in order to get past the roadblocks, setbacks, failures, and haters that pop up as soon as you become an expert. So make sure you find a vision that includes serving many more people than just yourself. Number 4, remember the expert business or influencer business or blogger or photographer or whatever creative business you might want to take on as a solopreneur is still business. Set up your LLC, get a bookkeeper, get a separate business credit card, etc. And another key point to building a successful business is to actually serve the customer. His books were built on ideas that came from his readers asking for more. So make sure you're listening to your clients and customers and delivering the value that they ask for. Number 5, model other experts. This is something a lot of my multimillionaire guests talk about, is to find someone who is doing what you are already doing and figure out how they did it and model it as best you can. The one thing I want to add to this is that many of the people I have on my show are successful now because they were early adopters. And I want to tell you that I have done the research, and right now it is very different to model someone than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Because every year a new social media platform pops up, a new strategy becomes super important, things that the people that you're modeling after didn't have to think about. But that mostly applies to marketing. The basis of figuring out how someone did something, the work ethic they had, the strategies they used in their business, the overall things that they did that moved them to the next level are still pretty replicable years later. Next, if you want to become an influencer or an expert, you're probably going to have to write a book. And remember what he said, there's no way around it. You simply have to sit and do this thing called writing. If you are self-publishing and you have trouble motivating yourself to write, announce a publish date to your community or build in external motivators using writing groups or an accountability partner. If you don't have an agent, find a different way to have deadlines to keep you moving. And lastly, be prepared for the grind. I know it's glamorous to think about laptop lifestyle and to just make money from Instagram, passive income, all those things we hear all the time on entrepreneurship shows and podcasts, but there is still a grind happening. People sitting at their desks all day answering Facebook comments, people editing video into the wee hours of the night. It may not be going in person from door to door, from event to event, flying all over the country, any of that stuff anymore, but there is still a grind that is going to happen in order for you to get where you want to go. So prepare for that and make sure you have found your why, you're functioning in your gifts, and you're doing something you really love doing.
All right, we are back with fast facts, but I will tell you no one is ever fast. So don't feel too much pressure.
She's like, did you just see how much this guy talked?
Okay, chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Scrabble or charades?
Charades.
What is the last thing you remember Googling?
Oh my God. I just Googled the issue around 401k plans right now because the government's trying to take away our 401k plan deductions, and I'm like, what's happening today on the issue?
That's not as exciting. I was hoping it was like an alien conspiracy or something,
sorry.
but that's very on brand.
See, I didn't know this question
Very
was
on
coming,
brand.
so she asked me an honest question. That's why I was just
That's
looking
good.
it up.
What is the wallpaper on your cell phone?
It's my family.
Who's the last person that called or texted you?
My wife.
One word you're guilty of saying too often.
Awesome.
Last vacation you took.
God, I don't want to take so many trips. Where did I just get back from? Park City. That's not actually true. Greece. I got back from Greece.
Ooh, nice. Hobby.
Skiing. I live to ski.
Pet peeve.
Pet peeve. I can tell you exactly what my pet peeve is. It is people who cannot get out of their seats, get their stuff, and get off the plane.
Oh, yeah.
I just lived through this. Hello, she's like this. Here's the deal. I want to do a public service announcement.
Please
That is
do.
a video that runs, and it's like, the plane has parked. We are now landed at the gate. Get off the plane. That's my pet peeve. I went on a tirade today about this with Facebook.
Oh, I
so
love it.
If you agree, like this.
Okay. Now, what would your wife say is her biggest pet peeve of you?
Oh my God. You know what? I'm so sorry, honey. I leave stuff everywhere. I have these piles.
Oh,
and
a piler. He's a piler.
Make piles, and then I clean the piles up, and my life is so amazing. She never complains about my piles.
Really?
Yeah, and then what I do
Good
before I
for
go on
her.
a trip like I did today, I take all the stuff, I stick in a bag, and I hide the bags. The piles are at least removed,
That is
so that
so-
while I'm gone, my piles are not painful for
That is
her.
really considerate. Mad props. She loves that you do that. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Oh, definitely coffee.
What is your Starbucks order?
Oh, you know what? I mean, look, I'm the latte factor guy. I can't stand Starbucks coffee, but I always get basically a plain coffee and milk.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Hey, can we talk about the coffee I do like, or we have to keep going?
Well, I feel like if people, talk about the coffee.
Bulletproof coffee. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, a bulletproof man.
I'm bulletproof.
Okay, so you have one with the milk and the butter, or do you have multiple of those?
No, just one.
So you have.
This is me without coffee. You guys do not want to see me with 2 bulletproof coffees.
See, I
What?
feel like people must not really love coffee then. Like, I want to have more than one super duper coffee.
You have one bulletproof in the morning, and you are good for 5 hours.
Really?
Now, you do have to exercise, because I find, the butter thing actually doesn't necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, but
Okay, good to know. Okay, early bird or night owl?
I'm an early bird.
Winter or summer?
Winter, because I live to ski.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Guilty pleasure television
chip.
show. Ooh.
Guilty people, is it people like us? What's the S?
This Is Us?
This Is Us. I love This Is Us.
That's not a guilty pleasure. That's a national treasure. Is what that
Every
is.
single show, I always cry. Every single show.
Yeah,
That's a good
it's
show.
okay. Favorite snack?
Oh God, snack. Snickers.
Favorite cereal?
Granola, but I can't tell you a specific brand.
Okay. Favorite music right now?
Oh man, that's gonna be tough. Okay, I'm gonna bust myself right now. I just got back from a Katy Perry concert. She was amazing.
She is amazing, but I would not have guessed that.
But so and Mike, by the way, I have two boys, 7 and 14. I could not get either of them to go to the Katy Perry concert with me.
I'm shocked.
That was the whole idea. Yeah, so I went with a buddy of mine, two guys
dudes rocking out at Katy Perry.
Two dudes rocking at Katy Perry. Now, the opposite of Katy Perry was AC/DC, because I'm a huge AC/DC fan.
Okay.
So, Madison Square Garden, you got AC/DC, you got Katy Perry. I mean, you get it all when you live in New York.
So great. Now you've rounded yourself out.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your next pursuit? What's next for you?
Well, I can tell you, I've got a lot of pursuits right now. Smart Couples Finish Rich just literally finished the update. It's coming out January 9th. So
awesome.
I don't know when this is airing, but January 9th, Smart Couples completely updated, just like we updated this book. That's what I've been talking about all year, is the Automatic Millionaire. Updated this, wanted to get this in millennials' hands. Smart Couples Finish Rich. We have a whole campaign in 2018. We relaunched the seminars, so we're going to have financial advisors teaching those seminars all across the country. Then I'm turning to the update of Smart Women Finish Rich. It's coming out in September next year.
Awesome.
Seminars being launched around that. And my registered investment advisory firm that I'm a co-founder of is A Wealth Management. We are the fastest growing RIA now in America. We've raised $2.5 billion in 16 months, 200 offices, 350 advisors. So focused on growing that. And I just became an advisor to Clarity Money and an investor in Adam Dell's new company, which is the ultimate financial app. It's like Mint on steroids. So I'll be talking about ways to, go download Clarity Money. Okay. What it does is it helps you find your latte factor automatically. And I also am an investor in Acorns, which is one of the fastest growing financial service companies for millennials. It helps you invest your latte factor. So and then I got two more things I'm working on. Smart Kids Finish Rich, and I got a Fable coming out on the latte factor. That's 2019.
This man knows how to hustle.
And then I'm going on vacation.
Well, congratulations on all of that. That's amazing. And thank you again for being with us today. This has been awesome.
Hey, my pleasure. This was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I used to wear it straight on camera, so I'm still adjusting.
So much better.
Thank you. Everyone loves it. They're going to rave about it. They don't have to have like a parka.
See, this
around
is
their
the
head.
part on the show that you need to actually have on air.
Well, we're rolling.
This is the part this is where it gets real. It always starts with the hair.
It does.
By the way, how does my hair look right now?
It does look really good. I was just thinking, you look normal.
Were
and
you
then
just
there's this.
Were you just thinking about my hair? I don't think she was thinking about my hair. Do you guys think she was thinking about my hair?
Okay, I wasn't thinking about your hair.
See, all interviews start like this. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready now. Now I'm ready. Are you ready? Okay.
I'm so ready. I mean,
You've been ready.